Impression the game you get out with what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea. He deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the Black Brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the end of year special here on Treaty Talk. Tom Clancy joined as ever by Matt O'Callaghan, and we have the one and only John Keogh to join us as well to discuss many of the positive stories coming out of Gaelic games across Limerick in 2024. And it's, of course, a good time for me to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and indeed a very prosperous 2025 from all of us here at Treaty Talk. And we look forward to meeting you and discussing Gaelic games with you in 2025, and hopefully a very successful season ahead for those teams in green. Gentlemen, how are you? Matt, how are you?
I'm very good, very good. Tom, you got over Christmas, obviously. I need to see the smile in your face. How are you, John?
All good, Matt. How's yourself? All well?
Good, very good. Looking forward now to the new year. Sure, we're back in action next week with the colleges and third level colleges. So, you know,
no rest for the wicked, as they say.
No rest for the wicked, but we'll take it. Sure, we were busy up to Christmas with the under-20 finals, and I know we're looking back, but you know, it was a fabulous win for APK Desmonds. You know, a new name on silverware, hurling silverware. So, you know, and after a great game, so it was. It finished. The year finished on a very positive note, I suppose. But you know, being around quite a bit over Christmas at those matches, and you know, being at the East Awards the other night on Friday evening, you know, one of the main topics of conversation and one of the main topics of concern, and we're taking a positive, reflective review of 2024 has been the number of walkovers. And I think there's a steely determination among officialdom and among the clubs to do something about it, which was welcome. And I think, Tom, the statistics that you brought out there about 2 or 3 weeks ago with regard to walkovers, I think was hair-raising. Yeah. You know, so, you know, get that out of the way. But other than that, we're looking back on a very, very positive 2024. It's a pleasure to look back on it, notwithstanding the fact that we didn't make it 5 in a row, but there were so many highlights.
Yeah, there certainly was. And there's silverware. I'm looking at a list of items here. There's silverware in all 4 codes for Limerick, be it at underage or adult level. So never a bad year when that happens. So as I said, we'll be looking back at 2024. We're going to look at different codes at different times and different moments. And I suppose we're going to build towards some of the really, really high points for clubs and counties across Limerick. So the first item I'll throw to you, John Keogh. Limerick, I think we were actually sitting beside each other for this one. Limerick's fantastic comeback in Ennis, which kick-started the hurling championship. And it was then we started to believe about the drive for 5. But Limerick looked in real peril in this one, John, and a great fight back. And, you know, always nice to pop over to Ennis and come away with a victory.
Yeah, Tom, we were sitting next to each other, really great vantage point just behind the Limerick dugout on the day. First thing I remember about that day was the beautiful day that it was in Ennis. It was a gorgeous sunny day, real old-style Munster Championship kind of feel to it, despite the now traditional early start in April. A beautiful day. It didn't seem that way for a while, with Limerick just not hitting the levels of what we expected. Of course, you have to look back maybe at the league semi-final defeat to Kilkenny. And Limerick kind of following on that performance, you know, in the early stages against Clare. I know John Kiley, remember talking to him afterwards, All of us talking to him afterwards, and he was relatively happy where Limerick were after the first 20 minutes. He said he felt, if I'm paraphrasing now, but there was a lot of positives in there where maybe the scores weren't coming for Limerick. But to me, I think it looked like Clare were well on top. But yeah, they come back in the second half. For one of the key things, obviously the goals, Dermot Burns' long range goal that we debated. Did Aaron Gillan get a touch? I'm still not quite sure myself, but Aaron Gillan, of course, getting a goal himself, and Donnacha O'Donnell off the bench. And I think we were looking at Donnacha O'Donnell throughout the league. He was thrown into the deep end against Clare, came up at 1-1, I think, if I'm correct. But to me, it was the introduction of Conor Boylan actually that changed the game in that third quarter. Really won a couple of frees, won a couple of tough balls to win as well, and just helped set Limerick on their way. And of course, moving Gerard Hegarty into the full forward line caused utter consternation in the Clare defence. And Limerick came away. I think it was 3 points in the end, but it felt much more than that. Leaving Cusack Park that day, and as you said, set us off on the hope for that this the beginning of the drive for 5, but it ended up being a huge victory in so many ways as the Munster Championship unfurled.
Yeah, we'll come to the Munster final later in the piece, but that was Limerick's start to the championship. Matt, I'm going to throw camogie game to you next. I think it was a bank holiday Monday. Limerick's junior side, which, as we've since learned, will effectively be defunct from action in the future. But we won't go down that road, Matt. But to collect the Munster title, nice innings for Dave Deedy and the team, and they celebrated, of course, a couple of weeks ago in the Woodlands. It was great for them to collect that silverware in Tipperary.
Yeah, it was fantastic because they were narrowly beaten in the final the previous year, and it was nice to come back and win it. And overall, I suppose it was a very, very positive year for Limerick Junior Camogie. You'll recall when David Deedy took over at the start of last year, Limerick Junior Camogie was not in a good place, and I thought he did an excellent job over the last 2 years in assembling a very, very strong squad and priming young players to make the step up to senior. And it was fitting, I suppose, that they should get their hands on silverware when they beat Cork in Kilcommon, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the final. And they had a decent league campaign, and the championship, it didn't go very right for them. They were distinctly unlucky against Roscommon. I was at it. They met a better Laois team on the day, no question about it. But they put up a very, very plucky performance. And overall, I think David will reflect on his 2 years in charge very, very, very positively, and he deserves to do that. And I think it's sad, that we won't have a junior team in the coming year. And I'm not so sure that the changes that Camogie are implementing in the coming year, I'm not so sure that the road to go down, as I conveyed that to the Camogie president, Tom. But look, it is what it is. We're going to have an under 23 next year, in 2025, which, in my opinion, is only going to be a mirror image of the senior. So, just touching on the senior briefly, and I know you'll be coming back to me on it, is that having the same senior championship is a no-brainer, for the simple reason that, one day last year, or one day this year, 6 senior camogie championships, the average losing margin was 25 points.
Yeah. No, that's something that they'll have to really, really look at in the future. But least
and I gave a blueprint. I gave a blueprint to the president for it, for what I thought would be much better. And I think it's calling out for something akin to our senior hurling championship.
Yeah. No, let's take your advice on board, Matt. If he starts bringing it in, we'll have to call it the Matt O'Callaghan Cup or something. But anyway,
you can call it what you like, Tom. But if it's for the better of the game, it's fine.
Only fitting
okay.
as well, if we call that, Tom. Only fitting.
So Limerick bow out as the reigning Munster Junior Camogie champions, and we'll see if that competition is ever played again. But for now, it's in Limerick's possession anyway, and at least there's that. Okay, the next item I think I'll speak about. This one is the Limerick trouncing Offaly to end what was, I think, 364 days without a victory in football. It was a Tailsen Cup group game. It mightn't jump out for many people, but a very, very precious victory for Jimmy Lee and his charges, 210 to 8 points victors in McNeville Park. And I think, John, you mentioned his name to me earlier when we were chatting before we started recording. Emmett Richter with 2 goals in that day, and his star continues to soar across Limerick football. We'll come to the 20s in a moment, and he was involved in that too. But a great day for Limerick to get their Tailsen Cup campaign off to not after a start, but they had been defeated by Doon, but got it up and running, and then they subsequently made the knockouts after defeating London and went on to beat Tipperary before losing out. So a very memorable victory in McNeville Park, and a very needed one for Jimmy Lee and company. It had been, as I say, 364 days between victories for them. Okay, so next, I'm conscious we have so many different bits and pieces to get through. The next one, Matt, I think given your connections to the school, I think it's no harm that I'll throw this one your way. Skull Paul Kilfinan went to Tulla, and the smile is on his face already, John. They went to Tulla, and they defeated Galway side, and they brought home All Ireland silverware. It was a very, 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 very good day for all in Skull Paul in Kilfinan.
A very good day. I'm not a past pupil of the school. I'm a past pupil of St. Munchins, but all my children are past pupils of the school. So I absolutely delighted. One of the highlights of the year for me was the Skull Pole victory. And they went, first of all, to Fethard and beat Glanmire in the Munster final. And I remember saying to lads that day, that team is capable of winning the All-Ireland. And I was proved right. It was a very, very, very good team. And like you need only look at the players that were in it. You know, you had Limerick players, and you had Christian O'Gorman, who was playing with minor with Cork. You know, they did a very, very good side, and you were with me at the final, I think, Tom.
Yeah,
and
John was there too.
You were there too, John. And I think that from my point of view anyway, it was a very, very comfortable day, because I thought by half-time that, you know, Skull Pole were in the driving seat. And just mention of Skull Pole now, that their next Wednesday, they will play on Collegiate Bishopstown in the B quarter-final. So they stepped up a grade this year, and you know, are making nice progress. They beat Mitchelstown CBS, who were their predecessors as C champions in 2023. They beat them in the first round. Now they lost in the second round to Collegiate Turles, and but they got through with. It was only a 3 schools group, but they got through by virtue of the fact that 2 were going through out of 3, and they faced Bishopstown. But it was a glorious odyssey for Skull Pole, and something that, you know, Tom, that has been coming with a while. They were unluckily beaten in a Munster C final by Collegiate Trasse Kantorp about 4 years ago. So, you know, that there is. It's a huge school now with well over an enrollment of 700.
Yeah,
so
getting bigger the whole time, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So that you know, it certainly is no longer in the small school category or medium-sized school category. It's a big school, you know.
Yeah. Oh, they're going to start to dominate hurling, so is what I'm taking from that. But I know they're making steady progress.
I'm not saying that, but
No,
you know what makes it very extra special for me is there's a very big contingent from Glenroe.
Oh, yeah. Okay, right. Well, there's his nailing his colours to the mast there. Okay, that was a fantastic victory for Skull Paul Kilfinan in the All-Ireland C College's final, and congratulations to them once again. Next, I think I'll take this one. I remember being at the game. It was again McNeville Park. A lot of my memories seem to be of McNeville Park this year. There'll be a lot of games there. It was Limerick toppling Antrim to survive in senior camogie. This was de facto relegation game. Limerick let a bit of a lead slip late on, but managed to hold out in the end. 2-17 to 3-12 victors over Antrim. And the atmosphere, I think, Matt, you were actually beside me for this one. The atmosphere was electric down the stretch. Limerick, as I say, threw away a healthy enough advantage, but managed to hold firm. Cueva Costello, I think, top scored with 8 or 9 points, and Cueva Lyons was the big star as well with 2-2. But in fairness to Antrim, they fought back gallantly, and I think one of the Roisin McCormack hit 2-10 for them. But yeah, it was very important that Limerick extended their stay at Senior Camogie into an 11th season. It had been a very, I suppose, difficult campaign. You mentioned the defeat there. I think the particular weekend you're talking about, Matt, was the Tipperary loss. Limerick,
absolutely,
involved, 20 plus points. They'd been beaten heavily by Waterford as well on the road, and I think it lost at home to Kilkenny. So it was. It was a lot of doom and gloom, but in fairness to Joe Quaid and the team, they rallied round and they wanted to stay in Senior Camogie. There was no doubt about it from the minute that game threw in against Antrim. But they came up with the result, and great to see so many young supporters there, ecstatic in the moment and seeing what it meant to Joe and the team. So yeah, an 11th season in the Glendimplex Senior Camogie Championship awaits in 2025, and hopefully they can turn the corner. But again, it might just be a case of trying to build slowly into the future for Limerick Camogie at certainly at senior level anyway. So
what made that extra special for me was it got the blooming Antrim monkey off our back.
Antrim have followed you around, Matt, and
they were haunting us. They beat us in the minor shield final the year before, in the All-Ireland final, and they had beaten us in the league consistently and beaten us in the championship. And I was absolutely delighted. It couldn't happen against the nicer opposition.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and next on our list is actually an individual, and I'll put it to you, John, and another man named Johnny. Johnny Murphy getting to officiate the All-Ireland final. Okay, we'd hope he didn't, because it might have meant Limerick were there, but not a bad second prize to have one of Limerick's top officials in the middle for it. And in fairness, he battled through an epic game. He did contribute to it, despite what our friends on Lee's side would say. He definitely contributed to a fine game of hurling, and great to see a Limerick man involved in the biggest day of all.
Yeah, great to see, Tom. And as you said, I'll echo your thoughts that great to see in one sense and a shame to see him in another with the Limerick senior hurlers not making the All-Ireland final. It opened the door for Johnny that was only slightly ajar, I think, for the previous 4 years, given his performance, he was due to get an All-Ireland. If it wasn't for Limerick's great success. Yeah, on the day, I think like many others, he had a fine game. There is one incident at the end of the game. I don't think, and Tom, you know, refereeing at the moment at any age, I've done it at under 10s level many years ago, where I wouldn't wish it on anyone. How a referee is expected to see that tug at that stage of a game, that late in a game, with plenty of players in front. Look, that's for another day. On the performance itself, I thought Johnny had a fantastic game. 100% contributed to what was an epic contest as well, kept things very calm. And what you want a referee to be doing is you don't want them to be the centre of the show. And certainly, from my view anyway, and I think the majority of people, Johnny was very much the man in the background, keeping the show running. And that's what you want from a referee, and that's what you want to see on All-Ireland final day. And it contributed to what was a cracking game. You don't have games like Cork and Clare at that level without a seriously impressive performance from the referee. So kudos to Johnny. Great for him to finally get that reward for all the sterling work he's put in. And, you know, many more, hopefully not. I'll go back at that again. Not from his point of view, obviously, but from Limerick hurlers' point of view, you'll be hoping Johnny doesn't see another All-Ireland for maybe another couple of years. But well deserved in getting it, and congrats on a fantastic performance.
Yeah,
I want to join in that, Thomas. He's my club mate, and I'm absolutely delighted for him. And despite a certain element of disingenuous people that want to define his performance by the incident at the end, that is just stupidity of the highest order. It was an outstanding performance by Johnny Murphy, and full credit to Donald O'Cusick immediately after the game. You know,
a Cork man, we must remind ourselves,
You know, and he's a Cork man. You know, and he immediately dismissed any thought of that incident at the end being defining Johnny's performance, because I think Johnny's performance in the All-Ireland final, and as I said, he's my club mate. I'd make known my interest. I thought it was one for the ages. And one, and just if I can digress a small bit, Tom, and you're fit to kill me now at this stage. You know, it's Johnny is a product of the wonderful work that the referees in our county are doing. And it was great to see some referees coming through this year and getting through and refereeing county finals. You know, and we have a core of referees in our county, and we were without Mike Sexton for most of the year. And thankfully, he will be back next year. And we have a core of referees that, you know, will inspire. And it's great to see young referees coming along, like seeing Timmy McGrath going on and refereeing a Munster final, seeing Jonathan Hayes making progress up through the ranks, Kieran Gannagh getting into the Munster the Munster referees list, Donegal O'Callaghan refereeing, I suppose, the most memorable Munster camogie final in history.
Did love
recently.
One, yeah.
You know, certainly. And doing an excellent job. Like, and you had Lee McGrainer making a breakthrough. Like, you know, it's all so positive. And we had him in here in about nearly 12 months ago, Tom, I think, when Donegal and Johnny came in appealing for new referees, and they got some new referees. And by God, you know, we still have a shortage of referees, don't get me wrong, but by God, the ones we have, they're good ones.
They certainly are. I know, very dedicated bunch, especially those who look after the adult games. They're you know, they're a credit to themselves. But Johnny, I suppose, representing them on the national stage, and I'm sure there'll be a couple more to follow in the different codes in behind. Okay, Matt, I'm going to throw the next one to you as well. It's another trip towards camogie, and the University of Limerick collecting the Ashbourne Cup with the most remarkable of wins in the final. They had, I think, felt a bit perturbed with how they were thrown out of the competition effectively 12 months previous, but in February this year they came back with a 6-11 to 1-12 victory over TU Dublin above in Connacht, and you know, plenty of Limerick connections evolve here, but great to see you well reigning supreme again at Ashbourne camogie level.
Well, it is. It's very good, very, very, very good for Limerick, and a very, very strong team. And you know, I don't think anybody could concur with the manner in which they were dismissed out of the championship 2 years ago. You know, I think that left an awful lot to desire. You know, my allegiance to UCC, like, but notwithstanding that, you know, it was a very, very good, it's a very, very good, UL team, and for that reason, they were definitely worthy winners, and of course they'll be defending it this year, and it'll be very, very interesting. Lisanna Boylan, Orla Kelleher and Sarah O'Brien will be lining out in the skull and crossbones this year. So
leave it out, Matt. Will you come on?
Limerick will be well represented down there. So
this was UL's moment.
No, I don't want to detract from UL for a moment, but they're strong Limerick connections on Lee side the coming year. Yeah,
and it was the Limerick man Declan Nash, who's in charge of the team as well. That, as I say, went up to Connacht. The Connacht Aerodrome, an indoor victory.
He was an excellent coach and has done tremendous work.
Yeah. So there was silverware there for plenty of Limerick connections. John, we're staying at third level, and a trip to Abbey for two Limerick third level institutions, Mary Immaculate College and University of Limerick. They plenty of Limerick involvement as well on both the sideline and indeed on the pitch, particularly for UL actually. But it was Mary I who won supreme, and it was an epic Fitzgibbon Cup competition. I think you and me have great time for these games. We love getting out to them in the early January despite the dropping temperatures. But Mary I worthy winners with as we know, Shane O'Brien and Jason Gallant starring for them on the day.
Yeah, Tom, a competition very close to my heart, your heart, and Matt's heart as well. Yeah, a great year, another great Fitzgibbon Cup. It's no surprise to see, Mary I and UL in that final. It just shows the strength of collegiate hurling in Limerick. I know Toos Midwest in the last couple of years have kind of fallen a little bit, but heading into the competition, UL rightly strong favourites every year, usually up against University of Galway in the latter stages, and there were as well in the competition this year. But obviously that final, Blarney, I watched it on TV, Tom. You were lucky enough to be there. I think from a Limerick point of view, obviously it's great to see Mary Immaculate win it, but you mentioned the two players that were very strong on it, in Jason Glenn and Shane O'Brien. And for Jason Glenn in particular, I think it gave him an avenue back into the Limerick setup. And look, we may talk about this later, we may not, but an avenue maybe to be Limerick starting keeper next year. That door is very much open. Obviously with Nicky Quaid's injury, but yeah, on the final itself, Jason's impact alone with those booming deliveries, I've played against Jason when he's played out the field with Patrick's Wells junior team. I've seen him, watched him with great distinction in goals for Patrick's Well the last number of years since Brian Murray's retirement, and obviously with Mary I now as well in the last 4 or 5 years as well. So on that impact alone, what he did in that game and just the delivery in what were very tricky conditions as well, Tom, as you would attest to.
Yeah.
It was brilliant to see. We've all seen Shane O'Brien and how well he's come on in the last couple of years, and obviously with Limerick as well. But the competition, I think, is something that needs to be championed more. We've spoken about that many times on this podcast. I'm very aware of that. And I think it might get that in 2025 with the lack of pre-season competitions. There's no crossover for players now outside of challenge games and in the run-up to league. In the run-up to league, but there won't be as much crossover certainly for players that are on inter-county panels that will be competing at Fitzgibbon Cup level, and certainly in the next week or so, as Matt previously mentioned, really looking forward to going out getting the games again. That competition, the beauty of it, Tom, like outside of maybe the finals at times, they're all played at the colleges themselves. Many times, Mary I being one in particular, that gets throngs of crowds for a very small, very, very small venue. And we've seen out in UL as well many times over the years, and out in Tuas Midwest, how lucky we are to have those three, participating colleges on our doorstep, and rightly gets the support on the day as well of games as well. So it's great competition, and something we're really looking forward to, and I'm sure Mary I are looking forward to defending that title.
Yeah, and you will.
Tom,
put it up to them, just on that point that John is making, it has January to itself this year with no pre-season competitions, which gives it a clear stage. It does, yeah, and we must credit John Kiley for in the last 6 or 7 years, or however long he's been with Limerick. He has never once told a player not to play in it. And you have to look at who Limerick have profited from it in terms of Aaron Gillan, to mention the other Gillan, is the most obvious player who wasn't making inroads at minor level, or didn't make the inroads at minor level that others might have. Probably was on the fringes. I think I saw Seamus Hickey talking about it the other day. He was on the fringes of the Limerick panel, but certainly wasn't the finished article. And it was his performances in 2017's Mary I Fitzgibbon Cup that brought him onto the Limerick senior panel. I think he came on against Kilkenny. If I'm right in saying, down in Nolan Park, Limerick lost to Clare and Kilkenny in John Kiley's first year in 2017, and none of us, I don't think, saw what was coming after that. But very few would have said, "This guy is ready for it." Aaron is one of a whole host of players. Have you looked through that Limerick team? You show me any of them. I think maybe outside of Nicky Quaid, I can't remember Nicky playing Fitzgibbon. Matt may be able to school me on that. No, but the majority. Yeah, the majority have played, in one of the 3 Limerick colleges, and I know Conor Boylan is not a Limerick fan now, but himself and his brother Jerome with distinction down in UCC as well. Yeah. So it's been a massive vehicle. Played in Dublin as well, so there was massive vehicle for Limerick players. Yeah, huge, and it's. Well, you see, John had a great appreciation of the Fitzgibbon Cup because he played in it. Yes, played in UCC, Matt. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a point that we shouldn't ignore. The season coming, there's plenty of Limerick involvement. I think there's upwards of 35 players between the 3 Limerick colleges, maybe a couple with UCC as well. But it'll be Colin Coughlin. Eddie Stokes is with UCC. Yeah. There's always 30, a couple in UCC. There's over 30 Limerick involvements anyway. They're dwindling a bit though in UCC. They're staying at home, you see, with the good colleges. Anyway, there's a remark and a half. Right, we'll stay on the small ball, and I put it to you, Matt. I have just scribbled down here my notes. Newcastle West make the senior return. The West is certainly awake. We saw an epic weekend for West teams when the county finals were on in hurling. Newcastle West heading back for senior. They got the better of the bouncers, and it's great to see that I suppose sleeping giant of Limerick hurling come on the way back as well.
Absolutely fantastic. It's one of my highlights of the year to see Newcastle West coming back, and it sort of crystallizes the importance of having a senior hurling team in our county town, which is hugely important, and it's also equally important that we have a second senior team in what is the West Division. Now, I don't think there isn't the slightest argument that can be made, but that they were very worthy winners of the championship. They came within a whisker of creating a record in the group stages of winning all 7 games, which was absolutely phenomenal. And look, their performance in the county final may not be what they wanted, but it was a poor county final. Because we have sort of lived on a diet of very good Premier Intermediate finals in the last couple of years. This one maybe didn't live up to the standard, but it was all about getting over the line, and hugely important for Newcastle West. On another point, Tom, just on that Newcastle West thing, I think this thing of Limerick clubs, and I know over the last 4 or 5 years, we automatically got a bye to the semi-finals of the Munster Championship. And that wasn't available to us this year because we didn't reach the All-Ireland final. Yeah. But it is something has to be done, and it cannot be allowed to continue, whereby clubs within 7 days of completing their county championship are asked to compete in the Munster Championship. It is not fair. It is wrong. It is grossly wrong. And we had 5 clubs that were in that position this year. We had Doon, Newcastle West, Fianna Kilmeedy, Adair, and Rathkeale. Kappa got a bye to the semi-final. The look of the draw.
Yeah, I don't know. There's much looking at, but that's where the calendar review has to come in. And look, Limerick, compared to other counties, the Premier Intermediate, for example, is one of the longer championships. You play 9 games to win it. In other counties they're playing fewer than that. The senior Limerick are playing 5 group games, and then potentially 2 or 3 knockout, depending on how you get through it. So there probably has to be a week found there somewhere to squeeze it in.
I have a suggestion, Tom. But they won't listen to me. But we just throw it out there anyway. Why had we to have the hurling club semi-finals before Christmas and not the football ones?
Yeah, well, I think it was flip-flop last year, wasn't it?
That would give us a week. That would give us a week.
It would, yeah.
Crucial week. I have no doubt whatsoever that Doon, Newcastle West, and Fianna Kilmeedy would have got over those first rounds of the Munster Championship.
Well, on the team of Newcastle West I was at, that was the one of the 3 games that I was at in those Munster club hurling games, and I tell you, another week for them now, they would have made all the difference. They had home advantage and they found themselves in winning position, but the legs tired, unfortunately, and Cashel got the better of them. So look, that's a point for another day, Matt, but I'd agree with you.
I know it's a point for another day, but we can look back without mentioning it.
Yeah. No, it was disappointing year in the Munster Club Championships as a result for Limerick, because we've been becoming used to successes between Pierce, Monaleen, and other clubs making inroads at the other grades. But yeah,
and unfortunately, Tom and John, the solution cannot be found within Limerick. For the simple reason that they didn't waste the weekend.
Yeah, they didn't. We played in storms and all.
Is to put clubs out twice in 1 week.
Yeah, I don't think too many would sign up for that. Especially
I don't think so.
Those playing both codes.
The Limerick County Board don't have any options on this. They maximised the dates available to them for their championship. Got it finished in time. Not like other counties in the past who have failed to make the deadline, mind you.
Yeah. Limerick have never
We've
failed.
won 5 All-Irelands, and I love saying that. We've won 5 All-Irelands, and like we never failed to meet our deadline.
Just on that very briefly, Tom, I think I heard the county board secretary on certainly one occasion the last couple of years stating that Limerick County Board have 12 weeks to get all those championships run off from, and you've added now of Junior C brought into the equation. They've streamlined the Junior Hurling Championships and splitting them in two to follow the intermediate and senior. But, you know, I think it's a very valid point. There has to be a week. And Limerick, okay, we've had the benefit of maybe it's sweeping it under the rug due to All Ireland victories and not getting them boys into the semi-finals. But it's something that needs to be highlighted at provincial level, certainly, and further along the lines as well. It's been swept under the carpet, and I suppose we could be called out of being crying ninnies. But it's a legitimate that no team in any county should have to, a week after their county final win, going out playing provincially. It's scandalous, and it's something that needs to be rectified immediately.
Yeah.
But go back to my old chestnut, Tom. You know, the level of disengagement between the clubs and the authorities. And I say it again, and I'll keep saying it. You're going to be blue in the face in 2025 from listening to me about this, and on the hope that the message got through. We had 5 conventions in 2 weeks, no contest or no notice of motion. It is there we should be putting in the notices of motion on things like that.
Yeah, I know. It won't be me that'll be raising them, but clubs need to start thinking what's best for them and how do they go about change. Yeah, so
I have a stock answer for clubs when they complain about things like that.
We know what it is, right? We'll move along to our next item. I'll actually take this one because again, in the game I was at, it wasn't in McNeville Park, it was in Mallow, the under 20B football championship. Limerick getting a bit of silverware thanks to a double scores victory over Waterford, 2-10 to 1-5 to claim the very first under 20B crown, and put Limerick into, I suppose, a novelty of an All-Ireland series which ended at the hands of Westmeath. But yeah, Limerick really, really dominant. I think from memory serves, it was in the second half. Aaron Neville helped himself to a couple of goals. Rona Cork, Dara Murray also on the score sheet, and hopefully now there's some green shoots in this. After I think what was a mixed group campaign for Limerick, they ended up in the B final, and thankfully then were able to collect silverware. And some of these guys would have had silverware. Some of the panel anyway would have had silverware at under 17 level 12 months previous, and then added the under 20 crown. So always nice to collect a bit of Munster silverware. And this time for the under 20 men's footballers. Matthew, I think we were there just to mention it briefly. It was, maybe
I was
more
there, Tom,
designs.
and they'll say, "Oh, Callaghan came out at the wrong side of the bed today," but it was a fantastic victory, and I was absolutely thrilled. It's the John Cairns Cup, which was usually prior to this was used for the pre-season under 20 football Group A. It was tempered with a bit of sadness that because of an asinine rule that's there, Emmett Richter was sitting above in the stand.
Yeah, he was the same vantage point as you and I, Matt, and he is an integral part of that team. Now, thankfully, he was then eligible. I think it was because, why was it again? He had played in the Munster.
Because he had played within 72 hours for the senior footballers against Cork in Cork. And it wouldn't matter this year. The coming year, we bring in a rule, but we'll put it 2 years down the road.
Yeah. He managed to play in the semi-final. I think he scored a goal in the first minute against Westmeath. So, but ultimately Westmeath beat Limerick in Thurles that day. But yeah, a funny one for a young man of that age to be the main part of the team, one of the main players in the team, and he didn't get to line out for no fault of his own. It's a very bizarre one to compute.
Absolute scandal because I'm in awe of this guy. One of the best guys I've seen coming through in Limerick for a long, long time.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah,
this guy is capable of being up there with the John Quans and the John Galvins of this world. He's that good. He's that potential. And to think that on that special day, for his own group of players, he had to sit in the stand.
Yeah.
Very
disappointing.
I think there's an absolute scandal, and the people, and I've said it here before in this podcast, Tom. The people that are responsible for that and presiding over it should hang their heads in shame.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Now we're going to move on to the next item. It's still football, and it's still in Mallow, and I'm going to put this one to you as well, Matt. Limerick ladies footballers have had so many near misses in the last few seasons, and finally, some silverware came their way thanks to the Munster Senior B crown. A victory in Mallow. I'm trying to remember what month was it. Was it May or June? June even, maybe, was it?
I don't know, but I had the privilege of being there, Tom, and I had the privilege of savouring it. And it was a very good win over Cork. Now it would be Cork's B team.
Yeah.
But full credit to Munster LGFA, and I was at loggerheads with him for a while, for bringing in this competition. And I said it here in this medium, Tom, and I came out at the right side of the bed on this one. Full credit to them for the manner in which they conducted the entire day. It made something special of the teams that were playing in both the B and A finals. It was a memorable day, and as you're right, it was great for Limerick to get their hands on silverware, because they had been, a couple of weeks previously, they had come so tantalisingly close to picking up the league silverware when they were beaten by Carlow and Burr. So it was a great consolation prize, and nothing more than that group of girls and their management deserved, because they had put in an awful lot of work during the year. And, they had a very, very tough league campaign, but they stuck with it, got to the league final. And were you at the league final, any of you lads?
John was at it, was he? I wasn't there.
I was. Yeah, I was in Burr for it, Matt. Yeah.
Very unlucky, John.
There were, again, missed chances, Matt.
Missed
chances, and it's something that's blighted this team when it comes to finals in the last 3 years. Losing to Offaly a few years ago at the same venue, and we've spoken about that, Matt. We won't even get into it now, about the ludicrousness of playing the host team in a league final, that it wasn't on a neutral venue. Obviously, the All-Ireland Junior final defeat to Down in very difficult circumstances as well, a goal that should never have been allowed, in my view, watching the game up in Croke Park. And Limerick, again, missing chances in that game, and very much the same thing in the league final this year. But, as you said, Matt, to recover from that and a couple of weeks later, and it might be Senior B silverware, but for so many of those players have experienced 3 defeats in 2 years up to that point, it was a massively important victory for that group. And looking into 2025, when they're playing at a higher level in the league as well, of course, next year, it is that chance for Limerick, to build a bit of confidence. Obviously, losing in the All-Ireland semi-final seems to be year on year against Fermanagh. We beat Fermanagh one year and we lose to them the next year. But, looking into 2025, that piece of silverware, Matt, could become a very, very crucial piece of confidence building for Sean Kiley and Mike Quilligan.
I agree totally with you, and they say it was Cork Bees. There's no such thing as a bad ladies football team in Cork. They have ladies footballers coming out their ears.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's confirmation for Limerick that they're heading in the right direction. And as John says, Division 3 football awaits in 2025. So hopefully it'll sharpen them for the upcoming junior championship, and they can get over the line at last at the grade. Okay, back to McNeville Park. I think we're long enough away not talking about a game in McNeville Park. And I throw to you, John, that Croke Kilfinan finally got over the line. And I think McNeville himself is from, I think it's Croke or Kilfinan. He's certainly from that direction himself anyway. So maybe apt that they only had the short little trip down the road. They got the better of Brewery. I think it was only a point in the end, but I think they were more comfortable than that. We were there on the evening, and great to see a club that up until 2020, or well, it was 2021, had never won a county title. They've now won 2, and they've contested a multitude of finals where they had never before. A great group of players, obviously, good management at the back of them, good club backing them, and great to see a club who kept coming back to get their reward, because 3 final defeats in a row, including one to their next door neighbours, Grana Ballingarry, last year, that is bound to have hurt, but they've used that hurt now to finally collect that piece of silver.
They have, Tom. Yeah, massive credit. They won the 2020 junior championship in 2021 due to COVID. And of course, 3 final defeats then in the intermediate. The prevailing years, to lose 3 finals in a row in such heartbreaking circumstances, the Grand Ballingarry so late. And to come back this year, and a man you know well and I know well, in James Hall at the helm, fully this year, taking on the manager. He's been involved in coaching the team for a number of years as well. Massive credit to them. On the final itself, yeah, you're right. The 1 point kind of thing was a misnomer. They were well on top, leading by 6 or 7 going into the final stages, and just a couple of late goals and, you know, a bit of panic in the ranks, but they held on. And, you know, such credit for a group of players to come back after those three defeats in a row in a final. It's hard enough to lose one final. You see a lot of teams come back a second year, you know, and maybe get over the line, but to lose 3 in a row and to still have the fortitude to make it back again, and, you know, and be certainly the dominant team the second half. It was horrendous conditions in McNeville the same day. Tom, if you remember right, it was just awful. It was dark. It was as tough a hurling conditions as you'll get. Matt, you were there as well. You remember it.
It was 5 o'clock start, Tom, as well, John. You know?
Yeah, it was just tough going, and you just had an exhibition of a junior hurling final across the road in the Bog Garden as well, between Fina, Kilmeedy, and St Patrick's. You know, that was just as tight. You know, and we may talk about the quality. We mentioned the Premier Intermediate. You know, that was probably the one game that whatever about quality on show on the day, but didn't have the same drama as all the other finals. And, you know, but that day, what a day for Croke Kilfinan. You mentioned it, Tom. You know, and the beauty of this now, they'll jump into Premier Intermediate in 2025 and go, look, why can't we go further? You know, and that's the beauty of the level playing field we have at club hurling in Limerick GA at the moment. You know, you saw with Drummond Atlaka heading into senior this year, and a lot of people thought they'd be the whipping boys. And my God, did they show and prove a lot of people wrong, you know, and consolidating for 2024. And hopefully from their point of view, they may be within the mix of getting promotion next year. So there's nothing stopping Croke Kilfinan, I can tell you that. And just massive congratulations for them. You know, to have that, again, I'll use the word fortitude, to make that comeback, you know, again and again and again, to reach the promised land from their point of view. But they'll be hell-bent on not stopping there.
Yeah.
But Tom, just a short point on that. What a year for Kappa. Kappa were involved with Croke Kilfinan in the intermediate hurling championship.
Yeah,
they won the junior A football championship on their own right. Well, probably with a bit of help from Croke Kilfinan. And then just a week before Christmas, they won the county under 20A championship with Rathkeale. Like, there's some players, take the like of Keane O'Carroll now, who we had in this podcast before your time with Jack, when he captained
Collegiate and Trocra
Rathkeale to win in All Ireland. He was involved in all 3 of those, and to the 4 in all 3 of those.
And he got player of the match in the football final as well, I think, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. So,
and of course, we have to mention he is a nephew of the one and only Bog.
Yeah, the man on our he's a very young man in our title.
In our title,
the video to start with Mikey Ryan having the rant, but the Bog's in the background there. If you haven't ever seen him, you can. If you know who the Bog is now, you'll be able to pick his head out there if you flick back to the start there and have a look.
Well, if you don't know who the Bog is by now, you haven't been around.
And just to finish off on those kind of hurling finals, John mentions the Premier Intermediate not being maybe dramatic or epic. The reason was, and I said this to you, Matt, at the time after the finals, sure, the reason was because there was the biggest margin of victory in any final in Limerick was 4 points, and that was the Premier Intermediate final. So of course there was no drama. There was 4 points between them, but as you know, all the way down the grades, there was a score in every single final bar that Premier Intermediate one, which was a massive 4-point win. But all the way down to the Junior C one, which went to extra time. Like, so it's. Yeah, as John you said it there.
You and I saw the Monaleen beating Rathkeale in the final when Rathkeale were going for a double, and we saw the performance of Max Ivory there in that that final. And just to digress for a moment to Monaleen and like hurling in Monaleen at the moment is in a rude state of good health, with the performance of their senior team during 2024, getting through to the county quarter final and having a very, very good performance against Patrick Swell. And from what we saw, Tom, in that junior A final, there are and the aforementioned Max Ivory among others. They're going to put pressure on the senior players this year, so next year. So things are looking very, very good for Monaleen from this distance.
Yeah, just finally on that, I'm sorry to cut across you. 3 years ago, Matt, in 2021, Monaleen were relegated down to Junior B. They were Premier Intermediate. There was an extraordinary general meeting of the hurling side of the club. Pretty much an extraordinary general meeting. Maybe not call it that, but there was a huge meeting held in the club, Matt, to see where they were going as a hurling side of their club. My God, it must have been some meeting, because what they've had since has been nothing short of extraordinary. So massive kudos, and it just shows. I know they're a big club and they're a coming club and all the numbers in the world and all that, but you still need people at the top leading it, and it just shows what can be done in 3 years for a lot of clubs. And it's not possible for every club. I'm not saying it is. Monaleen have an advantage with numbers wise and everything else, but those numbers still need to be harnessed, Matt. And there's a hell of a lot of talent, as you said,
Absolutely.
in that players coming through in that junior team. But of course, they won the under 21 as well, didn't they, this year?
They did.
The under 20, I should say, yeah.
The under 18 as well, am I?
Yeah. So that just tells you.
And they contested the Junior C final as well. So
and even with that under 20 final victory over Bruff, without one of their Limerick senior panelists, and Dara Langan as well. So, you just have to recognise that as well with Monaleen.
Absolutely, it was a fantastic performance. But they have a core of young players that are coming through there, and it was their breakthrough season last year at senior level. We'll say, they put Dara Langan in at centre back, which was a leap of faith. Left him there, and he blossomed as the year went on. You had the two Fitzgeralds, you had Dara Ferland, all making a breakthrough. When you have that kind of talent coming through from your conveyor belt, you're in a very, very strong place.
And they're a very, very young senior team at the moment. I think they've only maybe 2 over the age of 30 in and around the team. A lot of guys under 25 and younger, they're only going to get better with experience. So it's a watch this space sort of a job with Monaleen. And we failed to mention their All-Ireland Junior B win there. What we'll say on the Monaleen.
Well, yeah, that was last year. That was this year.
Yeah, started this year. They started the year winning and they finished it winning. In terms of hurling anyway, they've certainly got things right. Yeah, geez, John, you're right. It must have been some meeting, I tell you.
Hats off to Damien Cosgrave.
Yeah, absolutely.
The old warrior.
Yeah, I'll give you one example, Matt. I played in a game 3 years ago where we actually beat Monaleen to stay up junior. And they had that meeting a few weeks after that. But Damien Cosgrave was playing that game. He was still in fullback. And 3 years later, Matt, he's still ensconced at fullback in the very same team. And we played him in a challenge game earlier this year as well. And still has plenty to offer to any team going forward for next year as well, I'd say.
Well, I can tell you, Tom, in this year's County Junior A final, Damien Cosgrave didn't put a foot wrong. Sure he didn't, Tom?
Yeah. Although did he give away a penalty? No.
You were there with me. But that was for the team, Tom.
Yeah, they'll have to cut the jersey out off him, I'd say, because he's not going to give it back anyway. So, that's he's one of Limerick's great warriors in any coach.
Absolutely. But hats off to him, and his enthusiasm is infectious.
Absolutely.
29 years, I think.
Yeah, and counting. Yeah, you get the contract extension, as they say, for a 30th season, at adult level. That is, by the way, for anyone that's not familiar with Mr. Cosgrave. Okay, right. That's the Monaleen little corner. They can send us their donations there for that, because we'll have to give them plenty of kudos there. But so that's Monaleen. Just to move now to, I'm going to head back to ladies football, Matt, and I put it to you that St. Ailbe's climbed the ladder again after, I suppose, just being the bridesmaids for a few years, have managed to get their way back up. Out in Cappamore, they won the Limerick Senior Football Championship.
Tom, they did it the hard way, and I saw the semi-final and I saw the final, and they beat Monaleen, which was the ultimate test in the semi-final, and went on, and you'd have to say that they were convincing winners over Ballylanders in the final. It was a great year for St. Ailbe's. Now, Sheila Moynihan has assembled a very, very strong team there, and you must remember that they lost Martina McMahon, and we'll be talking about her in a minute, I'm sure, because we haven't spoken at all about MSP.
Well, in due course,
it's impossible to talk about MSP without talking about Grania, but Sheila and her backroom team have assembled a very, very, very strong and very, very competent team there, and that was borne out when they went out of Limerick. When they had big wins over the Waterford and Tipperary champions and were very, very unlucky not to be crowned Munster Intermediate champions. It was a great year for them, and you would have to say that they were very, very worthy winners of the Limerick Championship. Very, very worthy winners.
Yeah,
and I certainly did the county proud when they went out into the province.
Yeah, and we can't, I suppose, speak of the St. Ailbe story without maybe mentioning, and Sheila, when Sheila was on with us, she mentioned it as well, of course, the loss of one of their own in recent times in Emma Maguire. I think it was about 18 months ago, maybe.
Yes, in 2023.
And just to bring up this image here, and this is something that the team have put in the dressing room. It's just a number 3, which she would have worn so often, framed with each name on it, and thankfully they got to add the cup beside it. So and you can see there her initials printed on the side of the jersey as well. Just a subtle reminder of one of their own that they're certainly not going to forget anytime soon. And Sheila was very, I suppose, very strong on that they don't lose their connection to Emma or the Maguire family in their club.
Yeah, and she captained them to their first county title in 2010, and Sheila mentioned it. It was a moving moment when both Niamh Ryan and Sheila mentioned it immediately after they beating Ballylanders, and an even more moving moment last Friday evening when she was posthumously recognised by the East Limerick Gaels.
Yeah,
it was a very, very moving moment, but a fitting moment to somebody that had made a huge contribution.
Yeah, something like that, Tom, for me shows what the GA is all about. To lose a player, that's fine. Every team loses players for different reasons every year, but to lose a person, and to have them so close to your heart, we've all had it in our own lives and in our own clubs. And to me, this is where the GA is strongest, Matt. I think you'll agree with this. How we recognise those that have passed, and how they're remembered is a credit to the GA, the wider GA population. In this case, with Emma, with St. Ailbe's, and it's just how poignant life can be at times as well. It always has to be recognised. This time of year can be very difficult for people, as we all know. To see, as Matt mentioned, to see Emma recognised by East Limerick Gaels, is fitting, number one, but it's also fantastic to see.
Yeah, well, GA has never been found wanting on occasions like this, and we need only look back at the GA's response to the COVID crisis 4 or 5 years ago, when they were first in line with a response. So, we're members of a very proud family, and long may it continue. But we do recognition very, very well.
Yeah, and we must credit St. Ailbe's there. Even the initials on this jersey is it's not overbearing. It's just a subtle reminder that Emma is certainly part of their team still, and will be into the future, I'm sure. So
they're a wonderful club, they're just getting the fruits of the work that they're putting in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Moving along to, we're going to stay in Cappamore because that's where St. Ailbe's won their county title. And Matt had put it to you now that Newcastle West were thrilling and deserving winners of the Limerick Senior Camogie title, defeating Ahan in a, I think what's the phrase, pillar to post victory. They were completely dominant in this game, and you described it, I think the first half as some of the best club camogie you'd seen anyway for many a year, and they were worthiest of winners on the day.
Very, very worthy winners, and it was a memorable first half performance by Newcastle West. Now they came into it as raging hot favourites, and by half time they had justified it because at that stage they had given a hand, anyone that wanted to take it on board a lesson as to how to play camogie at its very best, and they were really almost out of sight at half time. Now, Tom, I was, if you follow on from it, I was disappointed with their performance against Collegiate in the Munster Championship. I was at it, and they started very brightly, but then seemed to fade away. I attribute a lot of that, Tom, and I think I said it in the podcast in the aftermath of it, to the fact that they haven't really got a strong challenge in Limerick during 2024. It's not that you have 2 or 3 teams in contesting like you'd have in most competitions. It's Newcastle West and the rest, to be the best of the rest, because they are just simply a fantastic team. They're a team of all the talents, and like if you look through the year, the number of underage competitions they have won at A level is, it's just simply fantastic, and it augurs very, very well for the future. It's an insurance for the future. Like, talk about conveyor belt, and the challenge now is for other clubs to try and emulate them and close the gap on them. Because I see Newcastle West dominating the Limerick camogie landscape for quite a while now. I think it'll take something special to knock them off their lofty pinnacle.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Yeah, and Matt is right. It's up to the rest. Newcastle West have just, as Matt said, obliterated the competition. Not only this year, but pretty much for a good few years now. Albeit, Han have come up a couple of times again, led by Niamh Mulcahy, but that's an aging Han team that's there, and the proof is in the pudding with the county final this year is how strong Newcastle West actually are now, and it really is up to the rest of the competition. And I'd concur with what Matt has said there, that there isn't any team ready and waiting to knock them off their perch, for want of a better phrase. But they're going to take some stopping over the next couple of years.
They'll be heading for
just on that as well, Tom. If I could add to it, like, it's very good to see Croke Kilfinan, like, who have been 13 times senior champions and once All-Ireland champions, back up in senior ranks. Like, Brian Sexton got his side over the line with a very good win over Ballingarry. And again, which was a one-sided final enough, in that Croke Kilfinan were way too good on the day. Like, and for it doesn't give us any great pleasure to see Ballingarry going down like that, because they were one of the great stalwarts of Limerick camogie up to recently. Like, they are the fallen giants of Limerick camogie, but they have young players coming through, so it won't be too long till we see them back in senior ranks. But I have to mention, and I hate singling out players, but I have to do this, that the performances of Donna Kenny during the year for Croke Kilfinan is simply phenomenal.
Yeah, and they're back up to senior, where, as you said, 13-time winners, and Ballingarry, I think 24 senior titles in Limerick.
Yes.
So they will rise again, I'm sure. Newcastle West, just to finish on them in terms of the club camogie, four of the last 6 titles, and aiming for 3 in a row next season. So they're certainly been very consistent since making the breakthrough in 2019, and as you say, the production line behind it doesn't seem to be relenting either. So congratulations to, I suppose, both Newcastle West and indeed Croke Kilfinan.
Yeah, but we must mention also the job that the respective managers have done for their team. Mike Quaid in Newcastle West and Brian Sexton in Croke Kilfinan.
Yeah, tying it all together. So moving along, and I think we should head back to McNeville Park. It's been too long since we discussed an event or a game there. Yeah, 5 minutes. Yeah, it's way too long. John, 4th times the charm for Adair at senior football, defeated 3 times in a row by Newcastle West in finals. They came back and they defeated Father Casey's worthy winners on, wasn't it a Sunday evening? I'm forgetting the days of the week it was even on. It was a Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Packed stand, big crowd in, and a dare back on top in Limerick senior football.
Yeah, just on Mick Neville itself first, and the developments with the stand being open now, it was great to see that county final actually being played in Mick Neville Park. You know, I know it's not fully refurbished and not fully done yet, but we'll move on from that fairly quickly. But to see such a crowd at the county final certainly brought an atmosphere. You know, this has been long debated by us, by many other people in Limerick GA. Look, let's call a spade here. If Newcastle West isn't for whatever reason there as a county senior football final venue, Mick Neville Park is the place to have these games. End of story. We saw it with some of the hurling games. We saw it with underage games. We saw it with plenty of games. We've mentioned Mick Neville Park, I know, many times already this afternoon or this morning. You know, there's a reason why we had such a great atmosphere in Mick Neville Park for that county final, because it was perfectly suited to it. On a dare itself, you know, yeah, they got the monkey off their back. Maybe not in Rathkeale, not in Mick Neville, in the semi-final over in the Bog Garden, thoroughly deservedly beating Newcastle West in the semi-final, you know, and it set them up for that performance against Father Casey's. Look, Casey's made a good run of it in the third quarter, absolutely did. You know, they got it back to a few points, but then the class really came out from it there. And you don't look any further on the day than Hughie Burke's performance. You know, it was just a sight to behold. You know, he's such a good player anyway. But to see it at that level, and when it was really needed, you always need someone in the final to really hit their straps. Hughie did that for a dare yet again. You can only admire, and you go back to Matt mentioned with the camogie managers, Mike Quaid and Brian Sexton. You only have to look back at Harry Gleeson after a couple of years away. It was no surprise that a dare were back in the final. Assembled such a good team around him. Morris Horn, you know, former Limerick senior manager, as one of your coaches. Brendan Keeley, the former Kerry star, another of your coaches. Ed O'Connor in there, your club represented from a coaching perspective, and plenty more on top of it. Couldn't argue it from a dare's point of view. You know, didn't have the greatest start to the championship, as we'll all remember in the early stages. Had a whole host of injuries, got most of them back by the time the business end came to fruition. And, you know, you just... They were probably, along with Munster St Paul's, you know, what a year Munster had. We'll talk about them, I know, in on the ladies' side of it in a while, but from you know, coming up to their first year in senior and so long, to make the impact they had, you know, and fairly unlucky not to make the final, and an outstanding battle, you know, in that semi-final with Casey. The Casey just, you know, coming through it in the end, but you know, worthy winners. I think everyone will agree with that. Are there, you know, to lose three finals. We said about Crow Kilfinan earlier. You know, to lose three finals in a row to the same opposition, then getting that chance in the semi-final. You know, to knock that out of your mental fragility maybe, when facing that opposition, and Dare did that, and as a result came into the final as raging hot favourites, as they deserve to be, and you know, came away with the Father Casey Cup against Father Casey's, you know, and all credit to them for it.
Yeah,
just on a brief note there, Tom, it would be remiss of us not to condemn, in the strongest possible terms, the morons who defaced and vandalised Mick Neville Park during the year.
100%, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Put that on record. Absolutely. Limerick GA put a wonderful facility there for us all to enjoy. And as John painted a very, very good picture of County Final Day, an exact picture of it, and the sort of atmosphere that the new stand and all has created. But to think that these people, you know, saw fit to come in overnight, remove the lead, and that was bad enough. But to vandalise the fencing and the gate and the entrance and the whole lot, it needs to be condemned in the strongest possible terms.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, but the facility, there's been over €1 million euro spent on the stand, and I know there's a gym and dressing rooms to go into it as well. But it is quite an addition to the venue, and we've covered so many games there down the years. I tell you, if it was there 10 years ago, we'd have been thrilled, because it's a venue that's used so much for all. We like the fact we're mentioning it so often. We'll tell you it's in use for camogie, football, hurling, and now football finals as well. So it's it's obviously one of the most prominent venues in the county. Yeah, but
But
just to mention,
the county secretary, Tom, gave me a view of the bowls of the stand one evening after a game there. And like it's state of the art, everything that's in there, the dressing rooms, facilities, gyms, showers. Oh, it's just simply unbelievable. And like within a whisker of being finished, and what a facility. You can just imagine, John painted a picture of the stand and the atmosphere. You can just imagine the atmosphere when the teams will be coming out through the tunnel under the stand.
Yeah,
which is very, very, very near.
Yeah, no, that'll make even for greater atmosphere. Yeah, when they normally come out behind the goals now. But yeah, I love the county final day, because I think I was asked by a reporter up the country who was trying to gather estimations of attendances at county finals, and I said Limerick was probably just north of 2,000 maybe at it. It's like, but 2,000 people in the Gaelic grounds would have been lost. That wouldn't have been great. But 2,000 people in McNeville Park with the pipe band and et cetera, it really adds to it, and that's not my dog, Matt, before you say it.
No, it's mine. We've a new puppy, and she's barking like there's no tomorrow. So
I could see the way you were looking, Matt. Three are
I'll take the hit on that one, Matt. It's not Tom at this stage.
Tom's dog sometimes doesn't like what I say, and he starts barking.
Yeah.
No,
very good. Right.
This dog doesn't know you yet, Matt, so you're okay.
Well, congratulations to it there anyway. A 4th Limerick Senior Football Championship title and a 7th final appearance since 2017, the year which they won that first crown. So I'm sure they'll be at the business end again in 2025. Now, Matt, I put it to you that I do like the sweets M&M, and you may like M&M, Martina McMahon. And what a year it was for Martina McMahon. We had her in a few weeks ago, a great guest, great explainer on the ins and outs of handball. And she gave great insight into the challenges she faced after sustaining a horrific back injury a couple of years ago. And she kind of brushes all that aside because she's climbed to the top of her game again. It's phenomenal.
But it's phenomenal, Tom. She's like this is a sporting treasure among us. She's one of our Limerick's finest ever athletes. Like you're absolutely right. Like the type of injury that she sustained, and the recuperation and the treatment that she had to go through. Somebody would be glad to get back into an alley, but to get back and recapture a world championship, it's simply and come within a whisker of making it 2, was absolutely incredible. But Tom, the chat that we had with her on podcast, and it was brief, in terms of that. What was it? About half an hour or so. But like we got an insight into her mindset. We got an insight into. Basically, I got a clearer insight into what makes Martina McMahon tick. She's just. I don't know. She ticks all the boxes as far as I'm concerned as an athlete, as an athlete, and what a great sporting ambassador she is for Limerick. I didn't ask her the question how many national titles had she won, because I could be embarrassing.
She doesn't know. I'd say in the best possible way. She actually probably doesn't know. She
doesn't know in the best possible way, and I avoided asking the question because I felt it was like that, because I had met her casually and had spoken about it a couple of months ago, and she obviously she's simply phenomenal. She's a handball machine.
She certainly is. And she doesn't. She hasn't. The fact that she probably doesn't know the number of titles, or she kind of remembered certain games maybe that she won or lost. And that's probably, to me, you often hear about some elite sports people, whether it be professional or even high ends of the GA. Like, they don't remember the medals. They don't count the medals. They remember the moments where they were narrowly beaten, or they were the epic wins. Like, they don't really dwell on the actual end product, i.e. the medal. They dwell on moments, and they use that as motivation. And Martina certainly has used, her narrow defeats or narrow victories as further fuel for her fire. And I mean, that injury is just phenomenal. She if there are anyone that didn't see the podcast, I tell you, go back and watch it, because or listen to it. It's crazy stuff. I mean, she was told basically, you're done, like, and she said,
well, absolutely told you're done.
I'm not, like, and it was a freak injury playing soccer, but back she came. She came, and
like, if I'm right in saying, Tom, spinal fusion.
Yeah.
If someone gets that in ordinary life, you're in trouble with your back. There's millions of different things you can't do.
Yeah.
Someone gets that in their sporting life, you're finished. End of story.
And in a sport, a sport dancer, you run around in such
where
a
it's a constant movement, constant pressure. That's fine. As Matt said, you'll do well to get back into an alley after an injury like that. Do you often win a world championship after it? Off the charts.
Martina, off the charts. I don't think we as a county appreciate.
That's what I was going to say, Matt. Long time before this career-ending injury, Martina has been one of Limerick's greatest exports, and quietly, sadly, and probably we're part of that. Maybe we haven't championed her enough, but certainly elsewhere hasn't. And to do that, then having done all she's done in her career up to that point, you're told with that, okay, that could be it for you. To come back not only to win local or national championships, to go back and win a Worlds. Their books, TV shows, movies are written about things like that, Matt, and the esteem she's held with that knows that by those that are aware of her and what she's done in her career. She's top of the list sporting wise.
Yeah, I always remember being in and I said this, being in the Limerick dressing room after the 2018 All-Ireland final. We got into that sacred sanctuary. How we got in there is another thing, but when inside there, I remember getting a text from my mum saying she had won the World Championship in America, and what a double it was for Limerick. But because of Limerick hurlers, it sort of went under the radar. But Martina, and I made the point to her, what was handball's gain was camogie's loss, because I first became acquainted with Martina when she was playing underage camogie with Limerick.
Yeah. No, and we must congratulate her on successes, and and I'd agree with you, John. We probably haven't, beaten that drum in terms of her success down the years, but I hope we've highlighted in recent weeks at least, and doing so here now again, and hopefully 2025 she can continue to operate at such a high level. And just to mention on the back injury, she managed to, I think you were saying about some of the shots she needs to play, she can't play them anymore, so she's had to adapt her game, and that's the mark of a true champion and a really skilled player that is able to adapt themselves to their needs, and it's long may her success continue. Okay, that was M for Martina. We'll stay on M for Monaleen St Paul's.
Leave that one to you, Tom, I think.
December 2024 was a good month for Monaleen St Paul's. I think it's fair to say, Matt. You're smirking there. I was delighted to be there for the Munster final. I was delighted to be there when they beat Middleton, and then the semi-finals, Coolera, Strandhill, and then they got over in the Doon of Donegal in emphatic fashion. And we had Claire O'Mara and John Horgan on in recent weeks, and actually I don't have the photo to hand, Matt, but he did keep his word. He put the 3 cups on the dinner table for Christmas Day. I'm sure you've got sent the same photo, or it did the rounds anyway. Epic win for Munster, and again Munster continuing to rise in all codes, and it's their ladies footballers that have stolen the year in terms of 2024 for the club.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it'll give you a sense maybe that ladies football at that level within Limerick is quite good, of quite a good standard, and quite close, because they had to pull out all the stops to beat Knockeny in the final, in the county final, and then they went on to beat Ailbe Dorney to qualify for the Munster final against Middleton, and they were rank outsiders against Middleton. I think Middleton had scored 6-18 in the semi-final. Is that right, Tom? In their win over the Waterford champions. And
they couldn't even score more than 6 against Munster. Munster were so good defensively.
How they'd have longed for keeping a couple of the goals for the Munster game, but that day was an absolutely fantastic day, Tom. In Mallow, when and you can't say they rode their luck, Like it was a perfect team performance, and John, like they have these two, and they'll forgive me for calling them veterans. Claire Coughlin and Yvette Moynihan family, who they spring from the bench, and they sprung them from the bench that day, and they both scored what transpired to be the winning points. And I think Claire repeated it again against Coleras Strandhill, did she, Tom?
The leveler, yeah. 7 minutes into stoppage time, yeah.
Yeah, so like they had a very, very strong 15. A very, very strong 15, but they had a very, very strong bench as well. And in fairness to John Horgan and his management team, they used their bench very judiciously during the year. They knew exactly when to spring the heavy hitters from the bench. And it worked. And of course, the final was, it was a non-event, really. They weren't in the slight bit flattered by an 8-point win in the finish, I think. And of course, we know John, who was player of the match.
I have a fair idea, Matt. I have a fair idea. It might be a familial member of the podcast host by any chance, is it?
Could possibly be. Could possibly be. And
you're putting him in a very difficult position now, man.
I'm not actually. He's lapping it all up. He doesn't want us to stop talking about it, so we'll stop.
Yeah. Well, what I will say is, obviously, my sister Mairead got player of the match in the final, but genuinely, like, and watch back the match since, there was very few dim performances even for 5 minutes from the team. Like, that's how dominant they were in every line of the pitch. Like, Carol Bateman, I'm telling you, at any grade in ladies football, is one of the best in the country. Like, if you see the way she performed up in Strandhill and indeed the Munster final, her saves, her kick-outs, she comes out for balls. Like, they're blessed to have her impact there. And I actually saw an interview.
I think I was going to talk about the same interview with her.
Yeah, if you look at that interview, and then like I don't know all the Munger players personally well, or I've got to know who they are and maybe where they're from and all that. And they have a lot of players who are not from Mungers, who are not even from Limerick. And people, I know that someone from Donegal shirked when I said they had 5 Cork ladies in the panel, and I said no, like they don't recruit these players as such. No. These players come to them because they have an open door policy. It's not like Kilmacud Crokes in Dublin men's football where there's all tricks to get the best of the best in. Mungers opened the doors to Grania McKenna, to Carol Bateman, etc., etc. There's many more of them there, and they've built a team and they've built a family of a club, a family of a team around it. And the same with the fact my sister is not from Mungers. The door was open to her when she was 10 years of age to play with them. Cueva O'Neill is from Kildimo. She's the same. There's another girl from Kildimo whose name is escaping me. They don't go looking for these players. They let these players come to them, and they've tried and nurture them, and they make them part of, as you said earlier, Matt, the MSP family, and they've reaped the rewards of it now. Like, so it's that interview with Carol Bateman, I think it was on. Is it on the GA?
Yeah, I have the interview here, which I'll be publishing next week. It's a very, very, very good interview. She's from Rosscarbery, an area of the country I know very well. Yeah. I worked around there for 4.5 years, but she's not the only Rosscarbery refugee in Munster, because Rob Hegarty of the senior football team is also from Rosscarbery.
Yeah. And look, they get the benefit, I suppose. People are coming up to Limerick City for work, and they're just on the fringes, like. But it's they've really nurtured a team out of those players. It's all well and good getting these players to come and play with you, but they've managed to bring the team. And you mentioned Grania McKenna there earlier, Matt, and she did an interview after the match, I think on the ladies football website, and she said, like, you should play with where you're from or where you are living. And Munger's the closest team to her. She was playing with St Ailbe's, but Munger is effectively where she's living now is closest to her, and she's bought into that, and was the leading light really in a lot of those games in terms of scoring.
Absolutely, Grania is a fantastic individual as well. She's from Tyrconnell in Monaghan, and
Ty Holland, isn't it?
Ty Holland in Monaghan. And played senior football for Monaghan. So, like,
Limerick as well, Matt.
And for Limerick. And, it'll be very interesting to see, will she be back with the Limerick panel this year? Be a major addition.
Yeah, and John, we've seen it in loads of codes down the year, teams coming up. Now, it's obviously they won the Junior All-Ireland, the Junior Munster, but it was the Limerick Intermediate they won. Like momentum in sport is huge. Like, I'm not saying they're going to walk the Limerick Senior Football Championship, but they'll be well placed next year to be right at the business end of it. Given, and Claire O'Mara touched on it last week with us, but they'll be very, very competitive because they have that winning feeling and they have that buy-in now from so many players in their panel.
You can't beat it, Tom. That winning feeling, the momentum it brings, and more importantly, we've seen it with teams, as you mentioned, across every code in every sport. When they come up, they're very capable of getting a big bounce. And teams should come into every season, no matter whether to be promoted or not. Why not us? If we put the work in, if we have the wherewithal to put a good team together, a good backroom team together, why not us? And I'm sure Mungret, as a club, very much have that philosophy. They feel that every competition they enter in, why not us? And I'm no doubt, I think you're bang on the money with this. They may not, believe fully that they're going to win the senior championship next year, but why not give it a crack? Why not, want to compete with the likes of Monaleen, St Ailbe's and Ballylanders of this world and give it a real go. Certainly they have that momentum and confidence coming into 2025. So there's absolutely no reason why Munster St Paul's won't be in the latter stages of that senior championship come next summer and beyond.
And Tom and John, they have prepared for it because in 2024 they entered the Senior Football League Division 1 and got to the final. And only St
That just tells you,
yeah, and only St Ailbe's beat them in the final. But Tom, we spoke before the Limerick Senior Football Championship this year, men's football, that Munster St Paul's had the capacity to light up the men's football. We've said the very same thing here now, and we're not into 2025 yet. But Munster St Paul's ladies football team have the wherewithal and the capacity, and I think the passion and desire to light up the Limerick Senior Football Championship next year. Watch this space.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it that they have that winning feeling. 2 losses is all they suffered in 2024. One in the group to St Ailbe's above in Ballybricken, and then they lost the league final to the same side in Cappamore. So that winning feeling is certainly following an epic 24. So congratulations once again to John Horgan, Anya Ryan, and all connected with Munster. First Munster title.
Yeah, and Tom, it's fair to say that we should say thanks to him for how generous they were with their time to this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose they kept Limerick's interest in club championships when unfortunately interests had kind of dwindled earlier in the autumn, but they kept it going right up till the middle of December. So now I had an M for Martina, an M for Mungret, and I have an M here, Matt, for maiden under 16A camogie title for Limerick. And this is definitely one of your favourites. But you look at his grin on his face there. Yeah, Limerick under 16A All-Ireland camogie champions. Epic win. And they did it the hard way as well, Matt. They didn't just beat anyone. They beat the queens of camogie, as it were, all en route to this title.
I'm like the cat that got the cream in this one, Tom, because what a fantastic achievement. I remember setting out from where I'm sitting now, the day of the semi-finals, heading to Mallow, Galway against Cork, Limerick against Kilkenny. And I saying to myself, we're ranked outsiders now of that 4. And justifiably for saying it. I met Kevin O'Connor going in, who was one of the selectors, who would be Vin's father. And I said to him, well, what do you think? He said, we're here to win,
Defiant.
And I took heart from it. And, what a performance that day. And what a free by Caitlin Ryan at the end to win it. Dermot was the manager. She'd be Dermot's daughter. It was tied in injury time, just painting the picture, not exaggerating it in the slightest. Extra time looming. She steps up to a free 65 metres out. I couldn't look. It bisected the post, and we got to the final. And then we had the final in Kilkenny against Galway. Of course, Galway surprised Cork, who would see themselves as being the queens of that level of camogie. And we faced Galway. And it was this time it was Rachel O'Grady that did the honours with a point at the end to win it. She'd be Natal's daughter, one of two of Natal's daughters who were in the team, and Natal himself was part of the backroom team. But I suppose that they belong to Maya Smith in many ways from Newcastle West, who scored 5 points. If you score 5 points in an All-Ireland final from play, it's a very, very, very good day's work at any level. But look, the outpouring after it, Tom, I will never forget it. Because you must remember, this team, some of this team, in 2023, won a Munster under-16 A championship for a historic first time. And didn't cut it in the All-Ireland series. And they retained it this year, and lost to Kilkenny, I think, in the first round of the championship. But after that, it was onwards and upwards, on to the semi-final, and final. What a year. What an achievement. Like, it should be up there in lights. This is a huge achievement for Limerick Camogie. I remember the day when Limerick Camogie won the minor A championship for the first time. They drew with Cork and Kilmallock, and you were saying to yourself, we've lost our chance. And it was played the following week, a huge crowd both days in Charleville, and Limerick won it convincingly. I think they won it by 8 or 9 points, and that was the era of the Cueva Costellos, the Rebecca DeLees, the Calvin O'Learys, and all these were the stars of that team, Cueva Costello. And I remember those days, and this is right up there with that, right up there with it. And we're really mixing it with the big guys when we're winning this. And I'd be very, very hopeful for the minor going forward now. The management team are moving forward to minor this year. Give them 12 months, and they will have the pick of 2 very good under 16A teams. Yeah. But it augurs so well for Limerick Camogie. Limerick Camogie that hasn't been doing too badly at minor level. In the minor championship, you have the 6 top teams in the country, and then you have the six next best, and which we're with in the A Shield, and we were beaten in the final by, wait for it, Antrim. Last year,
those pesky Ulster girls, yeah.
And we were beaten in the semi-final this year. So there's a lot of very good players coming through.
Yeah, and that I was at that final in Nolan Park, Matt, where Antrim beat them, and Limerick had chances and didn't take them, which we've been talking about. Absolutely, they did. But the work that Paul Neenan did with that group of players, you've seen so many of them onto David Deedy's junior team of 2024, from 23 to 24, and some even at the end of 23 when Limerick lost out. I think it was to Roscommon. David Eady's side lost out to Roscommon. I think it was. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but
they lost to Roscommon, and it really put them behind the 8 ball. That was what I was saying again. Facing Nation there. Yeah,
that's right. But Paul Neenan now has moved on this year to be part of the senior set up with Joe Quaid. So there's continuity there from that minor group in the last 2 years onto the senior team. You've mentioned that Diarmuid Ryan and his management team, including Natal O'Grady and others, moving to the minor setup. So there's that continuity of people, Matt, which has not been the case for so long in Limerick Camogie. So without that continuity, you're not going to make any progress. So I think we're in a situation here with these group of players, from that level of the 16 teams for the last couple of years, the minor team for the last couple of years, moving on to adult Camogie now in the next year or two. You have the right people involved in those management teams to harness that. So we could be, Matt, if all going well, we've a selection, a group of players. You mentioned one a while ago in Donna Kenny. You can throw the likes of Niamh Brennan from Mahan into that mix. Grace Hegarty plays with Monaleen, but is obviously, has older brothers in Diarmuid and obviously Gerard Hegarty. And I'm told by their father, who I've no doubt will kill me for saying this, that she's the most talented of the lot in his eyes. So that'll go down well with the two lads. But on a more serious note, there's so
Eddie's
much
girl, John.
Well, look, there's 3 of them, so I'm not going near that one, Matt. But more seriously, that continuity is vital for the future of Limerick Camogie. They've cottoned on something very well. They've done things very right for the last 5 years to be in this position. And more importantly, probably than that, you have the guy at the helm in the senior setup to bring all this together in Joe Quaid. So hopefully, Matt, 2025 can be a red letter year for Limerick Senior Camogie. I'm not talking about winning championships, not for 1 second. But if you can bring so many of those minor players for the last number of years into that setup, which, as we all know, is what happens, that they're brought through it at senior camogie level a lot quicker than they would be in senior hurling. We might have a solid team coming in the next 5 years, which was what Limerick Senior Camogie badly needs.
Yeah, and I can throw in a few more names, like Lucy O'Brien of Newcastle West, but from the under-16 team, Orna Barrett, who is a player from absolute ages. Tara Hines, Abigail Buckley, fantastic players. Maya Smith, the O'Grady's, and what about Evie O'Connor? I saw Evie O'Connor. Just give you 2 facts about her. I saw her making her Senior Camogie Championship debut with Bruff this year. She came on as a second half substitute against Napirshick in Atlaka and scored 7 points.
As a second half sub.
She scored. Bruff won the All-Ireland Colleges Junior C final. She scored either 1-8 out of 1-9 or 1-9 out of 1-9.
Not too bad. I think it was 1-8. Someone else got a point, if I remember correctly.
A point she didn't get. Yeah. Extraordinary.
Yeah.
We've extraordinary talent, and there are more. Caitlin Ryan, they're really good.
We've a very strong group, Matt, but I'll use that word, needs to be harnessed again. They have the right people in the right places to help that happen. For the first time in a long time, I think it's fair to say.
And the continuity is a word I think I used at the start of the year, Matt. We were talking about Limerick Camogie and the hopes for 2024. You need continuity of players, you need continuity of backroom personnel, you need continuity at the executive level as well. And hopefully there is, and the people will always come and go, but you can't, rip up the script every year and start afresh with brand new management teams, brand new executive, brand new players. You have to be bringing 75-80% of everyone through every year, and cultivating into a more formidable group. So congratulations to all connected with that epic win. And I think, Matt, my favorite line from you at the medal presentation was Maya Smith. Before you said her name, sorry, you said her father is in the demolition business, and so was she in Nolan Park that day. She helped demolish the opposition along route. So great stuff, and that's just one of the many that jumped out on the evening, and it was a great celebratory celebrations in the Woodlands House Hotel that evening. Okay, we have a couple of other 2 on my notes here, 2 more items to discuss, and the people of East Limerick must be shouting, or they've forgotten about Doon. We have not forgotten about Doon, and I tell you, we will not forget about Doon for a long time. A first ever John Daly Cup returns to the people of Doon, and indeed Ula, their sister club. John, an epic day for them in the Gaelic grounds. Not the most epic of games. The rain decided to try and spoil it and destroy it, but a certain Adam English led the charge. Darrow Donovan, Richie English, Pat Ryan, Barry Murphy, the familiar names we know, they all stood up for Doon, and many more besides when the need was really great for them. And they finally brought home. And I think it's only one handle now in the Daily Cup, whatever has happened there, but they got that piece of silverware at long last.
They did, Tom, and it's been a long road for Doon. That photo gives you an example of the level of rainfall, as well as Adam English took that free. It's it's fantastic. They've had a group of players now for a long time that have threatened. They've had difficulties with injuries in the run up to finals. Was it their whole back 6 last year out by the time they got to the semi-final, losing on penalties to Napirshick. You couldn't begrudge them it. I think Matt will echo me in that. You could not of any of the clubs that have been knocking on the doors for the last number of years. You know, given the talent they've provided for Limerick's unprecedented senior inter-county success, and given the couple of harsh defeats in recent years to Newcastle, you go back to 1989, Matt, when they lost to Ballybrown in the county final. You go back to 2000, where they lost out by a point, I think, was it to Patrickswell? You know, in 2000 as well, and obviously the more recent ones. It's been coming, and that's the one you were just going to wonder, when was it going to happen? For me, it was always a case of when, not if. With this Doon group of players, they've searched high and low for someone to help guide them in this direction, you know, to the promised land. Derek McGrath, you know, who I've seen, we've seen him at Waterford, we've heard him speak. I've huge time for Derek McGrath from afar. I think I was hosting a Munster final or Munster Championship preview a couple of years ago for St Patrick's GA Club in Limerick City, and Derek was one of the guests. And you know, he left certainly me, and I know talking to a lot of people after the event finished, with a sense of wonder about how good is this guy. Number one, I think we all heard so many of the Doon players throughout the year say how good Derek was, you know, from their point of view, having been in the inner sanctum with him and worked so closely with him, you know. But at the end of the day, that's fine. Derek is a facilitator. All managers and coaches are facilitators. As good as he is, you're nothing without the players, and that group of players. Matt, we spoke to him several times, I think, throughout the year. Dara Stapleton, who was a Trojan of Doon hurling in the last 8-9 years in particular, one of those workhorses you need in every team to get over the line, and Dara's a hell of a lot more than that as well. But he for me is one player that epitomizes what that Doon team are about, that collective nature, doing everything for the team, and that's Dara Stapleton in a nutshell for me. You talk about Dara O'Donovan, you know, like Dara's so frustrated with what happened with Limerick senior hurlers this year, a tough time. Well, he took out that frustration in the best possible way for Doon's senior championship campaign. Epic performances week after week. And you see him lifting the Daily Cup there. You know, you go back to Barry Murphy operating around the centre-back position, a master stroke from Derek McGrath. You know, a lot of people would have looked at the full back line and thought, Owen Fitzgibbon, surely he won't be there come end of year. By God, was Owen Fitzgibbon there by end of year. You go to Tomas Lynch in goals, growing with every year. You go all around the park. But then you go to the middle of the park, partnering Dara O'Donovan. And one of the brightest talents, Matt, I can only say, Matt and Tom, that I've ever seen. I remember watching matches to see the great, and I will use the word great, Andrew O'Shaughnessy play, Matt. I went to see him playing Harty Cup at St. Coleman's. You know, we all saw with Limerick underage. We saw it, I think, in fits and starts with Limerick 2007 being his best year with Limerick senior hurlers. But I don't recall, outside of Joe Canning and Andrew O'Shaughnessy, the level of excitement when a player gets a ball in their hand like I've seen with Adam English. Shaughnessy, Matt, you'll be able to testify to this. He got the ball in his hand as a youngster. My God, the whole arenas, you stand up. It was something I hadn't seen up to Joe Canning since, and then probably for me, Adam English. In the middle of COVID, there was a Munster championship, minor championship Limerick won. After extra time against a very well fancied Tipperary team. I remember doing commentary on it with Ken Hogan and Kieran Carey. Adam English that day, and plenty of other fine players on that Limerick team. But Adam English that day did things, you know, that were just off the charts. I remember him scoring a point at once. I can't remember if it was an extra time or late in the game, but he scored the point down the right wing from the touchline, the two Gaelic grounds.
But John, not interrupting you.
No, you're fine.
In the semi-final that year, he got 2 goals in 2 minutes against Cork before half-time, which changed the whole game.
And any player that can do that, he scored that point against Tipperary in the Munster final. He went back and caught the puck out and drove the ball down the field again. You know, you've guys like this. I'm going to go off topic from Doon for 1 second. Like, I don't care where, and I'm not telling anyone what to do, but surely Adam English has to start for Limerick next year. That's a conversation for next year, I know. But we saw a lot of Doon games, myself and Tom and you, Matt, this year, last year, different times. Adam's been knocking around due to injury, and it's the first full year, I think, full championship we've seen him in action. And my God, it was just a sight to behold. He at times in that final against Newcastle, took them on his own, probably to a fault at times. He wanted to do it all on his own. He wanted to do it. And then I remember talking to him, interviewing him after the game, and as humble as you could meet, you know, and you'd just be so delighted for Doon and the characters on that team. We've come across Pat Ryan. You've had him on the podcast. I'm one of the ones I wasn't at. And Pat is one of those most effervescent characters. I came across him on the sideline this year when Old Christians played Doon in the Premier Junior Hurling Championship, and giving a hand with his club there as well. All these guys, every club has them. We're focusing on Doon, but every club has them. And my point I'm going back to is you couldn't not but be delighted for that group of players and the club in general, Matt.
Yeah, but I agree with everything that John said. And for me, Adam English, he lit up the Senior Hurling Championship of 2024. His name will be synonymous with the Championship of 2024 and with Doon success. But if we probe a little deeper, you know, into why they succeeded and having not succeeded in the past, you know, and we talk at length about leadership. And I thought that the leadership of Dara O'Donovan during the entire course of the campaign was simply phenomenal. Absolutely, 100%. You know, to me, he was captain extraordinaire. He led by example. He got a tune out of all those around him, you know. And John was saying about he missing the missing for Limerick, you know. But it gives you a sense, you know, of what we were missing when we didn't have Dara. But I thought he was absolutely immense. And, you know, talk of consistency. Consistency within games and consistency from game to game. You know, to me, it was one of the great performances. He was one of the great leaders of Doon, you know, and when they will look back, and they will look back with relish on his performances during 2024, you know, and then the ball poked in 2025 yet. You know, they are going to be very, very hard to dislodge from the top for the simple reason that the amount of confidence that they will derive from that win will be simply phenomenal. And they have the players to do it. When you have a player like Adam English, no matter what super team you're playing, you have a chance. This guy is phenomenal.
Yeah,
absolutely.
258 in the championship. You know, basically over 9 points a game, just over 9 points a game. I know he's taking the freeze, people will say, but he scored an awful lot from play. Even in this,
to be scored, Tom.
Was it the semi? Yeah, to do. Is it the semi-final
against Patrick's Well, Tom?
Yeah.
The first 20 minutes of that game. Sorry to cut across you.
Yeah,
is I loathe to memory wise at times, Matt. You've phenomenal memory, but the first 20 minutes of that game.
15 points in 20 minutes or something?
Yeah, I don't recall a spell of hurling at club level, certainly at senior level, maybe at different stages, but it was awesome, number one. Number two, it was just... Patrick's Well had no answer. I don't think any team in the country at club level would have had an answer to that 20-minute spell. And, you know, and I know Patrick's Well did very well to come back and they made a game of it at different times, and later on Doon pulled away again. But I thought there was whatever doubt for me that Doon weren't going to win the championship. I thought at the start of the year they had a great chance. I think we'll go back, and I think, Tom, we were in the process of doing predictions and stuff back in late July, early August. But you know, that 20-minute spell for me said not only could they obviously see off Patrick's Well, it was going to take one hell of a performance in the final. Obviously, we did the conditions that cut out that prospect of a great competition between Doon and the Piercing from a hurling point of view. But that 20 minutes of hurling, I'd argue, is saying the best 20 minutes of club hurling I've ever seen.
Yeah, no,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was absolutely memorable.
And Adam English scored after, I think, 9 seconds or 10 seconds or something from the throw, and ran around
30 yards and then tapped it over there.
Yeah, look, when it comes to adjectives to describe Adam English, like, there is not enough in the dictionary.
Yeah. Well, that's Doon's success for 2024, and I'd say we're not going to have to wait another 100 and odd years before they win another senior hurling title. I'd say they'll have their eyes firmly fixed on bringing that cup back to their village again in 2025. So congratulations to all connected. And I was just saying that, I think there's 258.
Just there the other night they obviously got recognised at the East Awards the other night, and rightly so. But you could sense around the place and talking to people that all rivalries were put aside.
Yeah, I actually meant to say that. Yeah,
was not just celebrating with Doon, but celebrating for Doon.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic. They were hugely popular winners of the county championship.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
They carried themselves very well after the final. And I know that they're, I saw people as late as the last week honing into Darragh O'Donovan saying we'll be drunk on the Friday, but that was only a throwaway remark. But I would say this: had they got an extra week, they'd be playing the Fianna in the All-Ireland final.
Well, there's a statement anyway, but
I don't mind saying it.
No, well, you're entitled to say it. Yeah.
And that's my opinion.
Yeah, Ballygunner just about getting final quarter dominance over them to get over the line. But anyway, Doon will forget about that because they have got the Holy Grail and the maiden title that had eluded them for so long, and they're one of the ever-presence, really, it seems like, in Limerick senior hurling anyway. I don't ever remember them being outside of the grade, so they've finally got the piece of silverware they craved so much. Okay, the final item on my list here, lads, and it's
Christmas number one, Tom. Christmas number one.
Christmas number one, yeah. Something that people might be splitting hairs and saying, "Oh, well, I'm not supporter of this club or that moment or this." I think everyone in the county has no issue with discussing Limerick's 6th Munster title in a row, and a great day in Thurles, and another great win over Clare, and another Mick Mackey Cup coming back to Limerick. John, I'll put it to you first that this photo, which not everyone is going to be watching, but anyone watching will be delighted to see if it'll ever pop up for me here now. This photo is just kind of been replicated year after year after year. This man collecting silverware. We're never going to get tired of seeing that, are we?
No, I'm certainly not. Anyway, I hope it long continues. If I ever get sick of Declan Hannon lifting a cup, Matt, I think we'd want to give up what we're at. Epic, Tom. You go back. I think one of my earliest hurling memories, I'm showing an age a bit here, was 1992, Limerick being hammered by Cork in a Munster final, Matt. Beautiful sunny day. I think you'll remember it well. We were lucky, 94, 96 to win Munster. But the gap from 96 to 2013 tells you a lot about the starvation Limerick for hurling supporters had. To win that in 2013, a glorious day at the Gaelic grounds, beating Cork. Obviously, Limerick losing out in the semi-final to Clare that year. We haven't been the most successful team in Munster. That the proof is in the pudding with that. And we didn't win one in 2018 when we ended the All-Ireland famine. But from 2019 to 2024, I don't think you say to win 6 Munster titles in a row is just...
In this new format as well, John?
In the new format, Tom, that came in 2018, this round-robin format where you're playing everyone. You don't... If you come out of Munster to win an All-Ireland, like Clare did this year as well, in fairness to them, like the old saying, Kilkenny's great team from 04 onwards, or whatever way you want to call them, 06 onwards, that to win 3 games to win an All-Ireland. Leinster final, they were pretty much guaranteed. And Leinster final, All-Ireland semi-final, All-Ireland final. You have to win 3 to get out. You have to get out of Munster somehow, number one. Then you have to navigate whatever route you come out of Munster. And Limerick have done that by winning the Munster title since 2019. It is just the things that dreams are made of. You wouldn't even dream of this, Matt. Would you? Realistically?
No, absolutely. And I'm around longer than you, both of you put together, even. I've seen the dull days, and and I've said this on a number of podcasts, but I'll repeat it again. My first time seeing Limerick hurling was in 1960. in the Munster Championship in Cork when they were beaten 10-9 to 2-1. The first round of the Munster Championship, and I was a young fella and I cried all the way home for some reason that I had believed Limerick were going to win, or somebody had told me they were going to win. That's how long I've looked at it. I saw all the black days, mind you, and there were poor days in the 60s, a great day in 66 when we beat Tipperary, who had won 4 of the previous 5 All-Irelands. They lost in 63 to Waterford in the Munster final. I was there the same day, 11 points to 8 in the Gaelic grounds. But, I never thought, that I would see a day where we would even, to win a Munster championship was massive. And, when we eventually got it in 73, it was the first one I saw. It was terrific. We retained it in 74. Now it didn't go as we had hoped in the All-Ireland with Kilkenny in 74. But, what we've seen over the last 6 or 7 years, it's just off the charts. You have to pinch yourself. 6 Munster championships in a row. 6 Munster championships in a row. You have to keep repeating it.
Yeah.
For it to sink in. It seems so,
Well, Matt, it'll cut across it. It is a record, right? And Limerick have beaten everyone to do it. Like, and not to dismiss anyone else's, great innings of the 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever. They mightn't have always had to play Cork. They mightn't have always had to play Tip. They mightn't have always had to play Limerick, whatever the case may be. Limerick have played, Limerick beat Clare twice this year to win it. Yeah.
That must rankle with Clare. They've won an All-Ireland without beating Limerick.
I don't know. At the moment, I don't know that I care, but they're probably getting jibes from people like me around the place.
Because we were getting plenty jibes when we had beaten Galway, when we'd beaten Waterford, and we had beaten Cork. That we hadn't beaten Kilkenny.
Yeah.
My God, we rectified that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. The match itself was a 6-point victory in the end for Limerick, John, and it was that man Gerard Hegarty with a bit of an old-fashioned sort of finish, pulling the ball to the net. That was that started to kind of put the seal on it for Limerick. They'd been a bit of an arm wrestle before that, but Limerick, as they so often do, and kind of in between the third and fourth quarters of these games, they showed their quality, showed their class, and kind of pulled away from Clare. It was a comfortable, very, very comfortable 6-point win in the end.
Yeah, I think that's it, Tom. It was, first half was kind of a tight, close affair, but once Gerard's goal went in, that was it for me, really. You couldn't see any avenue. I know Clare Mac Rogers didn't get the post with a goal-bound shot later in the game. We're talking about Gerard, that it's instinct, Tom. So many of these Limerick players play with instinct. They're not. Yeah, people talk about Limerick's system and different things that Paul Kinnerk has introduced, but the game of hurling in particular is all about instinct for me. It's all about that thing. You saw Ivor Quilligan coming off his line, coming out for the ball, and Gerard just got there before him and pulled first time. How often do you see that now? Even at club games, you're willing at a guy to pull first time when there's a goal and they often they try and rise it still. Yeah. But the instinct at that top level, the couple of inches between the ears, Tom, as they say, and that Limerick team has it in abundance. And on the day itself, I'm laughing because if you remember, we did a preview video down touchline for Sporting Limerick before the game. Luckily, as it turned out, I managed to upload it before the power went. If you remember, there was a delay in the game.
30 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah.
There was a half an hour delay because the power around Thurles went out, and it left a lot of wonderings at the time whether the game would be able to go ahead because with the power failure, there was no internet, there was no nothing.
Yeah, it's
just remind you
everything.
Health and safety being the key aspect of that. So there's that added to the occasion for me actually. And to see Limerick, you had a photo up there a minute ago.
There again, the lads.
The likes of is it Kyle Hayes? Yeah, Kyle Hayes, Tom Marcy, Barry Nash, Mike Casey, and Peter Casey in the middle. And if you remember, we only have to hark back to earlier in the Munster Championship where Peter was struck down with that horrific injury in scoring a goal against Tipperary. And I'm going to digress just very briefly. We're talking about moments of 2024. One of the biggest ones for me was seeing Peter Casey come on in the county final for Napirshick. A 6-month gap from what looked, the injury was so bad that RT wouldn't show a replay of the incident. It was so horrific. Number one, when you see that, you're hoping that the player is okay for their life. You know what I'm saying? It's that serious an injury and that important that's the first thing, that their health and safety is okay. Then you hear different things as the months go on, and you see Peter at matches and he's looking okay, happy and healthy. That's the biggest thing. Then there was murmurings he might be ready for the semi-final. You're scarcely believing it. Then you get to the final, you see him tagged out, named on the bench. Then you see him come on and score a point. Yeah. And Matt made the point about Darragh O'Donovan with Limerick missing for the rest of the year, for all year pretty much. You had Peter Casey missing since that Tipperary game, and you had Barry Nash missing in the All-Ireland semi-final as well. So for all these things to happen within a year, and Limerick still coming out on top in a Munster, like Matt said it, like winning a Munster title is massive. Still, to this day, it's even harder to win one now, as you said, Tom. To win 6 in a row, we were at a stage last year where Limerick needed to beat Cork to finish third. You know, that was where, because Tipperary were going to beat Waterford. That was already a done deal.
2023 you're talking about here now.
Yeah, last year is in 2023, yeah. And then Limerick to get into the Munster final by the skin of their teeth, effectively, and that glorious day against Clare to 2 Gaelic rounds. Plenty of things going on in that game. And you just, you go back to the COVID times, and, you know, I was at the one against Clare. I think it was a Clare or Waterford.
Waterford, it was the Munster final.
Sorry,
yeah.
It was Clare who doubled up as the league final the previous game, and to be such strange surroundings, you know, with that, we did glory in 2019, Matt. Like the Gaelic rounds, that there was a scene to behold. You know, you've just lifelong moments. You know, I'll certainly remember the 2021 for so many different things. The time of year it was played, obviously, but to see that. See Declan Hannon, we started this conversation about Declan Hannon lifting trophies that we'll never get sick of. That to me was a serene, very, I don't know, it was such a strange time for all of us, you know, and the one outlet we certainly had as GA followers, we were lucky enough to be at the games, those privileged ones that were. And to see Limerick, you know, taking off on this successful route, they'd already won one in 18, lost out to Kilkenny in 19, and you just didn't know that like the likes of Richie English falling down injured in the weeks leading up to the Munster Championship. Mike Casey the same. You're seeing Barry Nash being recreated from a forward to a wing back in 2019. Dan Morrissey, who played fullback before under TJ Ryan and hadn't gone well. I remember one very difficult day for Limerick when Shamie Callanan ran riot, and Dan was the man with the 3 jersey on his back. And you're wondering all these things. And sure, now you can't imagine a Limerick team without Barry Nash at cornerback and Dan Morrissey at fullback. All these little things that happened, you know, 2020 during COVID, so many different things happening. And then to see it just keep on going and going and going for Limerick since, it's been utterly phenomenal and a joy for all of us to behold.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what better way to finish our discussion on 2024 than more silverware for Limerick in terms of that 6 Munster title. And they're not done yet, John. There could be a 7th just around the corner.
Far from it.
Yeah.
Lucky number 7, I'll call it anything to get it.
They have to do it for Nicky this year.
Yeah. Okay, John, thanks very much for your contributions through the year and indeed this afternoon. And Matt, likewise, stellar contribution as ever to Treaty Talk. And we must thank our loyal band of listeners for getting in touch during the year, whether it be at games or through the online mediums. And thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing the podcast. And we shall talk to you very, very soon in 2025 about all the Gaelic games across